Why would you do something like that? He's just a kid!
She was 13 years old, standing in the aisle of a commercial airplane at 30,000 feet, staring down a flight attendant twice her age. Her hands were trembling. Her voice was shaking. But her words cut through the tension like a knife. He didn't take anything. I saw what happened. The flight attendant's face flushed red with anger as she leaned forward, her voice dripping with contempt. Little girl, sit down before I have you both removed from this flight. But Maya Washington didn't sit down. Instead, she did something that would change two lives forever. She pulled out her phone, held it up so everyone could see, and said 5 words that made the entire cabin go silent. Go ahead. I recorded everything. But to understand how a 13-year-old girl found herself in the middle of a confrontation that would eventually go viral, reach millions of people, and spark a nationwide conversation about racism and courage, we need to go back. Back to 6 hours earlier, to a small apartment in Atlanta, Georgia, where Maya's day began long before the sun came up. It was 4:47 in the morning when Maya's eyes opened. No alarm needed. Her body had learned to wake up at this time because her mother, Denise, had to leave for work at 5. Denise Washington was 38 years old and worked as a custodian at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The same airport Maya would be flying out of in just a few hours. Denise worked the early shift, which meant she left the house when most people were still deep in sleep, and she wouldn't return until late afternoon, exhausted and aching but never complaining. Not in front of her children anyway. Maya lay in bed for a moment, listening to the familiar sounds of her mother moving through their small apartment. The creak of the bathroom door. The soft hiss of the shower. The gentle clink of a coffee mug against the kitchen counter. These were the sounds of survival, the sounds of a single mother doing everything she could to keep her family afloat. Maya pushed back her thin blanket and swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet touched the cold floor and she stood up, moving quietly so she wouldn't wake her 7-year-old brother Jamal, who was asleep in the bed across from hers. They shared a bedroom in their 2-bedroom apartment, and Maya had long ago mastered the art of moving through the morning darkness without disturbing him. She walked into the kitchen just as her mother was pouring coffee into a thermos. Denise looked up and smiled, but Maya could see the tiredness in her eyes, the kind of exhaustion that came from working double shifts and worrying about bills and trying to be both mother and father to 2 children. Baby, you're up early, Denise said softly, setting down the thermos and pulling Maya into a hug. You didn't have to get up yet. Maya hugged her mother back, breathing in the familiar scent of cocoa butter lotion and the cheap shampoo they bought in bulk. I wanted to see you before you left. Denise held her daughter a little tighter. My baby's going to Seattle today. Flying on an airplane all by yourself. I still can't believe it. Maya felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach. Flying. Alone. To Seattle. For the National Junior Robotics Championship. It felt surreal, like something that happened to other kids whose parents could afford plane tickets and hotel rooms and all the things that came with traveling across the country for a competition. But Maya had won the regional preliminary round, and the prize included a flight to Seattle for the nationals. A real chance. A real opportunity. The kind that didn't come around twice. I'm nervous, Mom, Maya admitted quietly. Denise pulled back and looked into her daughter's eyes, those same dark brown eyes they shared. Nervous is good. Nervous means you care. Nervous means it matters. Those words would stay with Maya for the rest of her life. In that moment, standing in their small kitchen with the refrigerator humming and the bills piled on the counter and the weight of everything pressing down on both of them, her mother gave her something more valuable than money or resources or any advantage other kids might have. She gave her permission to feel afraid and keep going anyway. Denise had to leave for work, but not before pulling Maya close one more time. You call me the second you land, you hear me? And Maya? She paused, her hand on the doorknob. I'm so proud of you. You're going to change the world, baby. I know it. Then she was gone, and Maya was alone in the quiet apartment with the weight of her mother's words settling on her shoulders like a warm blanket. Maya moved through the morning routine she'd perfected over the years. She made breakfast for herself and Jamal, simple but filling. Oatmeal with cinnamon and a little bit of brown sugar the way he liked it. She woke her brother gently, helped him get dressed, made sure he brushed his teeth and sat with him while he ate. At 7 years old, Jamal still needed looking after, and Maya had been doing it for so long that it felt like second nature. Their father had left when Maya was 6, and she hadn't seen him since. For the past 7 years, it had been just the 3 of them, Denise, Maya, and Jamal. A small family but a tight one. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Their neighbor Mrs. Chin, would arrive at 7:30 to watch Jamal while Maya was gone. Mrs. Chen was 82 years old, a tiny Chinese woman who had lived in the apartment next door for as long as Maya could remember. She wasn't their real grandmother, but she might as well have been. When Denise worked double shifts, Mrs. Chen was there. When Maya needed help with homework, Mrs. Chen was there. When Jamal had nightmares, Mrs. Chen was there. She was family in every way that mattered. When Mrs. Chen arrived that morning, she was carrying a small box wrapped in red paper. "For your trip," she said, pressing it into Maya's hands. Maya carefully unwrapped it, revealing a delicate jade bracelet, the stone a pale green that seemed to glow in the morning light. "My mother gave this to me when I was your age," Mrs. Chen said, her voice soft with memory. "For courage. You wear it today and you remember that you are stronger than you think." Maya slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, feeling the cool smoothness of the jade against her skin. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I'll take good care of it." The old woman smiled and patted Maya's cheek. "I know you will. Now go. Show them what you can do." Maya hugged Jamal goodbye, grabbed her worn backpack that contained her robotics project prototype, and headed out the door. The backpack was heavy, stuffed with the equipment she'd spent months building and refining. A water filtration robot designed for low-income communities. It wasn't fancy, not like what the other kids would probably bring. Maya had built it from recycled parts, components she'd salvaged from old electronics at thrift stores, 3D printed pieces she'd made at her school's maker lab. But it worked. And more importantly, it mattered. It could actually help people. Maya's love of robotics had started with a broken toaster. She was 8 years old when the toaster in their kitchen stopped working, and her mother couldn't afford to buy a new one. So Maya took it apart, piece by piece, trying to understand how it worked. She spent hours studying the heating elements, the wiring, the simple mechanical switches. And then, somehow, she fixed it. She still remembered the look on her mother's face when she plugged it in and it actually worked. From that moment, Maya was hooked. She started watching YouTube tutorials, taking apart old electronics from thrift stores, learning everything she could about how things worked and how to make them work better. A teacher at her school noticed her talent and helped her enter a robotics competition. And now, here she was about to fly across the country for the nationals. The bus ride to the airport was long, and Maya spent most of it staring out the window, watching the city wake up. Atlanta was her home, the only place she'd ever known, and the thought of leaving it, even for just a few days, made her feel untethered. What if something went wrong? What if Jamal needed her? What if her mother got sick or hurt at work? What if her project wasn't good enough? What if she failed? The questions swirled in her mind, each one feeding the next, until she felt like she could barely breathe. But then she thought about her mother's words. Nervous means it matters. And it did matter. This competition mattered. This chance mattered. Her dreams of going to MIT, of becoming an engineer, of creating technology that could change lives, all of it mattered. So Maya took a deep breath, adjusted her backpack, and got off the bus at the airport. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport was massive, and even though Maya had heard her mother talk about working there for years, she'd never actually been inside. The terminal was a sea of people, travelers rushing in every direction, pulling suitcases, checking phones, buying coffee, saying goodbye to loved ones. Maya felt small and out of place, clutching her backpack and trying to figure out where she was supposed to go. She found the check-in kiosks, navigated the process of printing her boarding pass, and made her way to the security line. The TSA checkpoint was intimidating. Maya watched nervous travelers taking off their shoes, emptying their pockets, placing laptops and liquids in separate bins. When it was her turn, she carefully placed her backpack on the conveyor belt, watching it disappear through the X-ray machine. She walked through the metal detector without setting it off, relieved. But then a TSA agent, a black man in his 50s with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples, called her over. "Miss, is this your bag?" Maya's heart dropped. "Yes, sir." The agent, whose name tag read Officer Brooks, opened her backpack and carefully examined the robotics equipment inside. Maya's throat tightened. Was something wrong? Was she not allowed to bring it? But then Officer Brooks looked up at her with genuine interest. "What is this?" Maya relaxed slightly. "It's a water filtration robot. For a competition." Brooks's eyebrows raised. "A robot? You built this?" Maya nodded. "Yes, sir. It's for the National Junior Robotics Championship. I'm competing in Seattle." Brooks carefully examined the components, asking questions about how it worked, what inspired her to build it. Maya explained her design, how the robot could filter contaminated water using UV light and ceramic filtration, how it could be deployed in disaster zones or low-income communities where clean water wasn't guaranteed. As she talked, her nervousness faded, replaced by the passion she felt for her work. "My daughter's into engineering too," Brooks said, carefully repacking Maya's equipment. "Georgia Tech junior year." He looked at Maya with an expression that reminded her of her own mother. Pride mixed with hope. "You keep going, young sister. The world needs more brilliant minds like yours." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Officer Brooks." He nodded and handed her backpack back to her. "Good luck in Seattle. Make us proud." That small interaction, that moment of encouragement from a stranger, settled something in Maya's chest. The nervousness was still there, but it felt more manageable now. She made her way through the terminal to her gate, found a seat near a charging station and pulled out her competition notes. That's when she noticed him. A small boy sitting several seats away, his legs swinging because they didn't quite reach the floor. He looked to be about 9 years old, with smooth brown skin and curly black hair. He was wearing an oversized Seattle Seahawks jersey that hung past his knees and clutching a stuffed dinosaur to his chest. Around his neck was a bright yellow lanyard that read, "Unaccompanied Minor," in bold black letters. The boy looked nervous, his eyes darting around the gate area, his grip on the stuffed dinosaur tightening every time someone walked past. Maya felt an immediate kinship with him. He was alone just like her. He was scared just like her. She watched as a gate agent, an older woman with silver hair and a warm smile, approached the boy. "Are you doing okay, sweetheart?" the agent asked gently. The boy nodded but didn't speak. "First time flying?" He nodded again. "You're going to do great," the agent said, patting his shoulder. "I'll make sure you get on safely, and there will be someone to meet you when you land in Seattle, okay?" The boy's voice was small when he finally spoke. "Okay. Thank you, ma'am." The gate agent, whose name tag identified her as Rebecca, brought the boy a small package of crackers and a juice box. Maya watched the boy open the crackers carefully, breaking them into small pieces and eating them slowly, like he wanted to make them last. She wondered about his story. Why was he flying alone? Where were his parents? Why was he going to Seattle? But she didn't approach him. She just watched from a distance, feeling protective of this small, scared stranger. What Maya didn't know yet was that this boy's name was Marcus Chen. He was 9 years old. His mother had died just 2 months earlier from complications related to lupus, a disease she'd been fighting for most of Marcus's life. His father, a Chinese-American man, had left when Marcus was 2 and had never looked back. Marcus had no one left except an aunt in Seattle, a woman named Lisa who he'd only met twice in his entire life. Marcus was flying to Seattle because he had nowhere else to go. The stuffed dinosaur he clutched was named Rex, and his mother had given it to him when he was 4 years old. She told him Rex would protect him whenever she couldn't be there. Now Rex was all he had left of her. But Maya didn't know any of this yet. All she knew was that there was a scared little boy sitting alone, and something in her heart told her to pay attention. The boarding announcement came over the intercom and Maya gathered her things. She was assigned seat 14B, a middle seat in economy. Not ideal, but she wasn't complaining. She'd never been on a plane before. Any seat felt like a gift. She watched as Rebecca personally escorted Marcus onto the plane, making sure he was settled before allowing other passengers to board. Maya made her way down the jetway, her heart pounding harder with each step. The airplane was smaller than she'd imagined from movies and TV shows. Narrow aisles, cramped seats, overhead bins already filling up with luggage. Maya found her row and carefully stowed her backpack under the seat in front of her. She wasn't letting it out of her sight. She slid into the middle seat between a businessman who immediately put on headphones and an elderly white woman who smiled warmly at her. "First flight?" the woman asked. Maya nodded. "Is it that obvious?" The woman laughed gently. "Only because I remember my first flight. I was terrified. But you're going to do wonderfully, dear." Maya introduced herself, and the woman said her name was Mrs. Patterson. They chatted briefly before the pre-flight announcements began. Maya listened carefully to every instruction, noting where the exits were, how the oxygen mask worked, what to do in case of a water landing. When the plane began to taxi toward the runway, Maya's hands gripped the armrests so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Mrs. Patterson noticed and placed a gentle hand on Maya's arm. "Just breathe, sweetheart. In through your nose, out through your mouth." Maya did as instructed, focusing on her breathing as the plane picked up speed. And then they were lifting off the ground, the wheels leaving the runway, Atlanta falling away below them. Maya's stomach dropped, and for a moment she thought she might be sick. But then the plane leveled out and the sensation passed, replaced by wonder. She was flying. Actually flying. She looked out the window past Mrs. Patterson and saw the city sprawled out below, tiny cars and buildings and roads stretching as far as she could see. A few rows behind her, Maya could just make out the back of Marcus's head, his stuffed dinosaur visible above the seat. She wondered if he was as scared as she had been during takeoff. She hoped someone was being kind to him. The seatbelt sign turned off, and the flight attendants began moving through the cabin, preparing for beverage service. That's when Maya first saw her. The flight attendant who would change everything. Her name was Sandra Pierce. She was 47 years old with 22 years of experience with the airline. She had blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun and a face that might have been pretty if it weren't set in such a permanent expression of irritation. Maya watched as Sandra moved through the first-class cabin with practiced efficiency, smiling at passengers, asking about drink preferences, her voice warm and accommodating. But when Sandra crossed into economy, something shifted. Her smile faded. Her voice became clipped. Her movements turned sharp and impatient. Maya noticed the change immediately, and it made her uneasy. She'd seen this before, this shift in demeanor, this difference in how people were treated based on where they sat, what they wore, what they looked like. She'd experienced it herself in stores, at school, in places where she was made to feel like she didn't belong. A passenger in row 12 asked Sandra for help with the overhead bin, and Sandra's heavy sigh was loud enough for half the cabin to hear. "That's what happens when people overpack," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. There was another flight attendant working the cabin, a younger Latino man in his late 20s whose name tag read James. Unlike Sandra, James actually seemed to enjoy his job. He was friendly and efficient, asking each passenger what they wanted, making small talk, treating everyone with the same warmth regardless of where they were sitting. Maya watched as James made his way toward the back of the plane, toward where Marcus was sitting. She couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw Marcus raise his hand timidly, saw him speak to James, saw James nod and smile. But then Sandra appeared, intercepting James before he could return with whatever Marcus had asked for. Maya couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see the tension in their body language. James looked frustrated. Sandra looked annoyed. Whatever Marcus had requested, Sandra seemed determined that he wouldn't get it. James walked away empty-handed, and Sandra approached Marcus's row. Maya couldn't hear Sandra's words, but she could see Marcus's face fall. She watched him nod sadly and turn back toward the window, his small shoulders slumping. The flight attendant had told him the headphones were out, that he'd have to wait. And Maya felt something ignite in her chest. Anger. Not the explosive kind, but the slow-burning kind that starts small and grows hotter with every passing second. She tried to focus on her competition notes, tried to tell herself it wasn't her business, tried to convince herself that she was probably misreading the situation. But she couldn't shake the image of that little boy's disappointed face. 20 minutes passed. Maya watched as Sandra distributed headphones to other economy passengers, handing them out with barely concealed impatience. And then Maya saw Marcus raise his hand again, tentative and hopeful. She watched Sandra turn toward him, watched Marcus's mouth move, probably asking about the headphones he'd been promised earlier. And she watched Sandra's face transform into something ugly. "I said wait," Sandra snapped, her voice loud enough that passengers in surrounding rows looked up. Marcus shrank back in his seat, and Maya saw tears forming in his eyes. A Nigerian businessman sitting in front of Marcus turned around, his deep voice calm but firm. "Miss," the child asked politely. Sandra's head whipped toward him. "Sir, please mind your business." The businessman's expression hardened, but he didn't respond. He just turned back around, shaking his head. Maya's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't right. This wasn't okay. That little boy had done nothing wrong. He'd asked politely. He'd waited patiently. And he was being treated like he was invisible, like he didn't matter. Sandra disappeared into the galley at the front of the cabin, and Maya thought maybe that was the end of it. Maybe Sandra would cool down, get herself together, come back and apologize. But 5 minutes later, Sandra emerged from the galley with her face flushed and her jaw set, and Maya knew immediately that things were about to get worse. Sandra marched straight down the aisle to Marcus's row, her footsteps heavy and purposeful. When she spoke, her voice was loud enough for half the economy cabin to hear. "Excuse me, young man. Did you take headphones from first class?" Marcus's face showed pure confusion. "What? No, I haven't moved from my seat. I just asked if I could have headphones because mine are broken and you said..." Sandra cut him off. "A passenger reported seeing you near the first-class cabin. We're missing headphones." Marcus's voice rose with panic. "I didn't go anywhere. I've been sitting here the whole time." The Nigerian businessman turned around again, his voice firm. I've been sitting right here since we took off. The boy hasn't moved from his seat. Not once. Sandra ignored him completely, her focus entirely on Marcus. I need you to empty your pockets. Marcus was crying now, tears streaming down his face. I didn't take anything. I promise. I didn't take anything. And that's when Maya unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. Mrs. Patterson grabbed her arm gently. Dear, what are you doing? But Maya was already moving, walking down the aisle toward the commotion, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Every instinct told her to sit down, to stay quiet, to not make waves. She was just a kid. This was an adult. A flight attendant. Someone with authority. Who was Maya to interfere? But then she thought about that little boy's face. She thought about his tears. She thought about every time she'd been treated like she didn't belong, like she didn't matter, like she was less than. She thought about her mother working double shifts and still being treated like she was invisible. She thought about Jamal and the world he would grow up in. And she thought, if not now, when? If not me, who? Maya reached the row where Marcus sat crying, where Sandra stood with her arms crossed, where other passengers were starting to pull out their phones. Excuse me, Maya said, her voice shaking but clear. What's happening? Sandra turned to her with barely concealed annoyance. Little girl, return to your seat. This doesn't concern you. But Maya didn't move. She looked at Marcus, saw his tear-stained face, saw his hands trembling as he clutched his stuffed dinosaur. And she looked at Sandra, really looked at her, at the anger in her eyes, the contempt in her expression. He didn't take anything, Maya said, her voice stronger now. I can see him from my seat. He hasn't moved since we took off. Sandra's face flushed darker. I'm not going to ask you again. Return to your seat or I'll have you removed from this flight. Maya felt fear clench in her stomach, but she pushed it down. I'm not asking you anything. I'm telling you. He didn't take your headphones. A woman in row 18 had her phone out, recording. Sandra noticed and snapped at her. Ma'am, you need to put that away. The woman's voice was calm but firm. I'm allowed to record on this flight. Federal law. Other passengers were watching now, some with phones out, some just staring. The cabin had gone quiet except for the hum of the engines and the sound of Marcus's soft crying. Maya took a step closer to Marcus's row, positioning herself between him and Sandra. Did you take any headphones? She asked the boy gently. He shook his head frantically. No, I swear I didn't. I've been sitting here the whole time. I just wanted headphones because mine are broken and I wanted to watch a movie and she said she'd bring me some but she never did and then. Maya held up a hand gently to stop him, then turned back to Sandra. She pulled her phone from her pocket and Sandra's eyes narrowed. Put that phone away immediately or I'll have the captain. Maya interrupted her. I've been recording audio since boarding. For my robotics presentation. It's time-stamped. If you check, you'll see he never left his seat. It was only a partial truth. Maya had been recording notes for her presentation, but she hadn't been recording the whole flight. But Sandra didn't need to know that. And the threat of evidence, of proof, of accountability, that was enough. Sandra's face went through several shades of red. James appeared from the galley, taking in the scene with wide eyes. He approached cautiously. Sandra, maybe we should just. Sandra whirled on him. Stay out of this, James. I'm handling it. But James didn't back away. I think we should get the captain. Sandra's expression shifted slightly, uncertainty flickering across her face. She looked around at all the passengers watching, at all the phones recording, at the evidence stacking against her. Fine, she said, her voice tight. I'm reporting this to the captain. Both of these children are being disruptive, and I have reason to believe one of them committed theft. She turned on her heel and marched toward the cockpit, her back rigid with anger. The moment Sandra was gone, James knelt down next to Marcus's row. Hey buddy, he said gently. You okay? You didn't do anything wrong, okay? Nothing at all. Marcus was still crying, his whole body shaking. Maya slid into the empty seat next to him without asking, her protective instinct overriding everything else. I'm Maya, she said softly. What's your name? The boy looked at her with red, swollen eyes. Marcus. His voice was so small, so broken. Maya felt her heart crack. Marcus, listen to me. You're okay. I promise. She can't do anything to you. You didn't do anything wrong. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I just wanted to watch a movie. My mom used to. He couldn't finish the sentence before dissolving into tears again. Maya didn't know what to say, so she just sat there, her presence a silent promise that he wasn't alone. Other passengers were murmuring support. The Nigerian businessman turned around fully. "Young lady, you did the right thing. I saw everything. That boy hasn't moved from his seat." Mrs. Patterson had made her way down the aisle as well. "This is absolutely unacceptable. That woman has been targeting this child since boarding." And then the cockpit door opened and the captain emerged. He was a white man in his 50s with graying hair and a professional demeanor that commanded immediate respect. His uniform was crisp, his expression serious. 28 years of flying commercial aircraft had taught him to read situations quickly, and what he saw now told a story that contradicted what his flight attendant had just whispered to him in the cockpit. A 9-year-old boy crying in his seat, clutching a stuffed dinosaur like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to the earth. A 13-year-old girl sitting protectively beside him, her jaw set with determination despite the fear flickering in her eyes. A cabin full of passengers with phones raised, recording everything. And Sandra Pierce standing with her arms crossed, her face flushed with righteous indignation. The captain's name tag read Thompson, and when he spoke, his voice was calm but carried authority. "Can someone explain to me what's happening here?" Sandra spoke first, her voice clipped and professional, the voice of someone who believed she was in the right. "Captain, these 2 minors were causing a disturbance, and I have reason to believe one of them committed theft. The boy was seen near the first-class cabin and were missing headphones." Captain Thompson's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. He turned to Maya and Marcus. "Can you tell me what happened?" Maya took a breath, steadying herself. She was 13 years old, facing a man who could have her removed from this flight with a single word, and yet something inside her refused to back down. That flight attendant accused Marcus of stealing headphones. He didn't steal anything. He's been in his seat the entire flight. I've been watching from my seat in row 14. Multiple passengers witnessed her skip him during service, ignore him when he asked for help, then accuse him without any evidence. Captain Thompson looked at the surrounding passengers. The Nigerian businessman spoke up. "Captain, everything she said is accurate. I witnessed the entire thing. I've been in the seat directly in front of this boy since boarding. He hasn't moved once." The woman with the phone added, "I have video of the accusation." Captain Thompson turned to Sandra. "Did you verify the headphones were actually missing?" Sandra hesitated. "Well, I was informed." "By whom?" "I assumed based on." "You assumed." The captain stepped away and spoke privately with James. James confirmed what everyone already knew. Sandra had a pattern. There had been complaints before. This wasn't the first time. Just the first time it had been captured on camera. Captain Thompson returned to Maya and Marcus, his expression softening. "I apologize for this situation. You both have done nothing wrong. Please enjoy the rest of your flight." He turned to Sandra, his voice harder. "We'll discuss this in Seattle. Return to your duties." Sandra's face went white, then red, then white again. But she said nothing. She just turned and walked toward the galley, her whole body rigid with barely contained rage. Maya stayed seated with Marcus. The other attendants brought them both snacks and extra drinks, an implicit apology for what had happened. But Marcus was still shaken, his eyes red and swollen, his small body trembling. "First time flying?" Maya asked gently. Marcus nodded. "Me too. I was so scared during takeoff." Marcus looked at her with surprise. "Really? You seem brave." Maya smiled softly. "Being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes you're both." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing that. Then he held up his stuffed dinosaur. "This is Rex." "Hi Rex," Maya said seriously. "Nice to meet you. My mom gave him to me. She said he'd protect me." Maya noticed the past tense. "Your mom sounds cool." Marcus went quiet, his grip on Rex tightening. "She died 2 months ago." Maya's heart broke. "I'm so sorry, Marcus. That's why I'm going to Seattle. To live with my Aunt Lisa. I've only met her twice." The words tumbled out of him then, as if he'd been holding them in for months, and Maya was the first person who felt safe enough to tell. His mom's name was Jennifer. She'd been a single parent, an elementary school teacher who loved reading and cooking and singing off-key. She'd had lupus for most of Marcus's life, and she'd fought hard, but the disease had finally won. Marcus's father was Chinese American. He'd left when Marcus was 2 years old and never came back. Jennifer's sister Lisa was Marcus's only remaining family. Lisa lived in Seattle, worked as a software engineer at Amazon, and had never had kids of her own. Marcus was scared about the new school, the new city, living with someone who was basically a stranger. "She seems nice," Marcus said, his voice small. But I don't really know her. And I miss my mom. Maya didn't have the right words because there weren't any right words. So she just sat there with him, her presence a promise that he wasn't alone. My dad left when I was 6, she said finally. Haven't seen him since. It's just me, my mom, and my little brother. My mom works really hard. Double shifts sometimes. And I help take care of my brother. Marcus looked at her. Is it hard? Sometimes. But we have each other. And that's what matters. They talked for the next hour, sharing pieces of themselves, finding common ground. Maya told Marcus about her robotics project, about the competition, about her dreams of MIT. Marcus told Maya about his mom's laugh, about his fear of the dark, about how he sometimes talked to Rex when he felt lonely. By the time the pilot announced their descent into Seattle, something had shifted between them. They were no longer strangers. They were friends. In first class, a woman had been watching the entire confrontation. Her name was Eleanor Hartwell. She was 62 years old with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Eleanor had built a tech empire in Silicon Valley in the 1980s when women in tech were rare and often dismissed. She'd sold her company for $2.3 billion in 1998 and had spent the years since as a philanthropist, focusing on education equity and youth STEM programs. Eleanor had witnessed Sandra's treatment of Marcus. She'd watched Maya stand up, watched a 13-year-old girl put herself in the line of fire to protect a child she didn't even know. And she'd seen something she hadn't seen in a very long time. Courage. Real courage. The kind that shows up when it's hard, when it's scary, when it would be so much easier to stay quiet. After the seatbelt sign turned off, Eleanor made her way back to economy. She approached Maya and Marcus with a warm smile. Excuse me. I'm Eleanor. I witnessed what you did back there. That was extraordinary. Maya looked up, slightly guarded. I just told the truth. That's rarer than you think. Eleanor's eyes crinkled. May I ask what brings you to Seattle? Maya explained about the robotics competition. Eleanor's face lit up. The National Junior Robotics Championship? I'm one of the sponsors. She showed Maya her foundation credentials and asked about her project. Maya described her water filtration robot, the inspiration behind it, how it could be built for under $50 and deployed in communities without access to clean water. Eleanor asked technical questions and Maya answered with confidence, her nervousness fading as her passion took over. Marcus watched the exchange, seeing Maya shine. Eleanor turned to Marcus. And what about you, young man? Marcus told her he was moving to Seattle to live with his aunt. That's a big change, Eleanor said, her voice warm. You're very brave. She exchanged contact information with Maya before returning to first class. I'd love to see your presentation at the competition, Eleanor said. And I think we should talk afterward. Maya watched her go, not quite understanding what had just happened. But she felt something. A door opening. A possibility forming. The plane landed in Seattle and Maya and Marcus exchanged phone numbers. Text me when you get to your aunt's, Maya said. Let me know you're okay. Will you tell me how your competition goes? Promise. Captain Thompson personally escorted them off the plane. In the jetway, an airline supervisor was waiting, a black man in his 50s named Mr. Davis. He apologized profusely to both Maya and Marcus. We take these matters very seriously. Sandra Pierce has been suspended pending investigation. He offered flight vouchers and asked for their guardian contact information. Maya provided her mother's number. Marcus provided his Aunt Lisa's number. At the gate, Lisa Chin was waiting. She was 34 years old, Chinese-American, with kind eyes that looked exhausted and uncertain. The moment she spotted Marcus, she rushed over and pulled him into a tight hug. Marcus, oh my God, you're okay. Lisa had never had kids. She worked long hours as a software engineer. Her apartment was a one-bedroom that she'd never planned to share. She was taking Marcus in because it was the right thing to do, because he was her sister's son, because he had nowhere else to go. But she was terrified she was going to fail him. Baby, what happened? Lisa asked, noticing Marcus's red eyes. Were you crying? There was a mean lady on the plane, Marcus said. But Maya helped me. He introduced Lisa to Maya, and the two exchanged contact information. Thank you, Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what happened on that plane, but thank you. Marcus is really brave, Maya said. And really smart. Marcus hugged Maya before leaving, his small arms wrapping around her waist. Good luck at your competition, he whispered. Maya watched them walk away, Marcus holding Lisa's hand uncertainly, and she felt something she couldn't name. A connection. A responsibility. a bond that had formed in the crucible of that airplane aisle. Maya navigated the unfamiliar Seattle airport alone, took the light rail to downtown, and found her way to the budget hotel where she was staying. The room was small but clean. She set up her robotics prototype on the desk and tried to review her presentation, but she couldn't focus. She kept thinking about Marcus. She texted her mom, "Made it safe. Flight was eventful." Denise called immediately. "What happened?" Maya tried to downplay it, but her mother wasn't fooled. "The airline called me, Maya." "What happened?" And then Maya broke down. She told her mother everything about Sandra, about Marcus, about standing up in that aisle with her heart pounding and her hands shaking. "Mom, they treated this little kid so bad. He just lost his mom. He was so scared. And that woman, she didn't care." "But you stood up for him," Denise said. "That's my daughter. I was scared too." Being scared and being brave aren't opposites. The same words Maya had told Marcus. She realized now where she'd first heard them. From her mother. Every day in ways big and small. After the call, Maya lay in the dark hotel room, exhausted and anxious. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Made it to Aunt Lisa's. She seems nice but apt is small. I miss my mom." Maya typed back, "It's okay to miss her. She'd be proud of you today. Marcus, thank you for being my friend." Maya stared at those words for a long time. Friend. She'd only known this boy for a few hours. But somehow, in the pressure and pain of that airplane confrontation, something real had been forged. The next morning, Maya woke early and made her way to the convention center where the competition was being held. It was massive, filled with hundreds of young people with projects far more sophisticated than hers. Drones, AI programs, robotic arms, automated systems with price tags she couldn't even imagine. Maya wandered the exhibit hall, looking at the other projects, and felt her confidence crumbling. Some of these kids had professional videographers recording their presentations. Some had parents who were engineers and scientists. Some had been doing this for years with resources Maya could only dream of. She overheard two competitors, both white boys with expensive equipment, talking nearby. "Did you see that girl's project? It's basically a science fair volcano." They laughed and Maya's stomach dropped. She found a bathroom, splashed water on her face and tried to breathe. She texted Marcus, "I don't think I belong here." His reply came quickly, "You belong everywhere. You're the bravest person I know." Those words gave her just enough courage to walk back out there. When Maya's turn came to present, she set up her prototype, built from recycled parts, 3D printed components, an Arduino board that she'd programmed herself. She demonstrated how it filtered contaminated water using UV light and ceramic filtration. She explained the inspiration: the Flint water crisis, communities without access to clean water, the need for affordable, deployable solutions. Her presentation was shaky at first, her voice nervous. But then she found her rhythm and her passion took over. The judges asked technical questions and Maya answered with confidence. She knew her project inside and out because she'd built it from nothing, because every piece had been earned. One judge, an Indian woman named Dr. Patel, leaned forward with interest. "This is incredibly thoughtful work. The real-world application is immediately apparent." Another judge added, "Your resourcefulness with materials is impressive." Maya left feeling better. Not confident she would win, but proud that she hadn't given up. Finals were announced that afternoon. Maya's name was called. She'd made the top 10. Eleanor found her during a break. "Congratulations. Your presentation was outstanding." "Thank you," Maya said. "But I saw the other projects. They're so much more advanced." Eleanor smiled. "Advanced isn't the same as important. Your project solves a real problem." They walked to a coffee shop in the convention center, and Eleanor shared her own story. She'd grown up working class in Ohio, the daughter of an electrician. She'd been the only girl in her engineering program in the 1970s. Professors had told her she'd never make it. She'd built her company from nothing, fighting for respect every single day. "I see myself in you, Maya," Eleanor said. "Same fire. Same determination. But you had something I don't," Maya replied. "You had people who believed in you." Eleanor shook her head. "No, I didn't. Not at first. I had to believe in myself first. Then I found my people." She paused. "What would you do if you won the scholarship?" Maya told her about MIT, about wanting to create technology that helps her community. "And if you don't win? I'll find another way. I always do." Eleanor smiled. "That's the right answer." Finals day arrived. The presentations were held before a larger audience that included press and tech company scouts. Maya presented again, smoother this time. She demonstrated her prototype filtering dirty water to drinkable. The crowd's reaction was positive. But the other finalists were impressive too. Sophie, a 14-year-old from a wealthy Silicon Valley family, presented an AI-powered prosthetic limb that was genuinely groundbreaking. David showed an automated greenhouse with sophisticated environmental controls. Every project was remarkable in its own way. The judges deliberated for 2 hours. Maya sat in the holding area, texting with Marcus and her mom, trying to manage her anxiety. Finally, the award ceremony began. Third place, the Earthquake Detection System. $10,000 scholarship. Second place, the Automated Greenhouse. $25,000 scholarship. First place, this year's winner demonstrated not just technical skill but vision, social consciousness and real-world problem solving. Maya held her breath. First place goes to Sophie Richardson for her AI-powered prosthetic limb. $50,000 scholarship to the college of her choice. Maya's heart sank, but she applauded genuinely. Sophie deserved it. Her project was incredible. Maya thought, at least I tried. At least I was here. The ceremony continued with special recognitions and honorable mentions. Then Eleanor took the stage. Every year, the Hartwell Foundation recognizes one project that embodies our core values: innovation serving humanity, resourcefulness in the face of limitations, and potential to create lasting change. Maya wasn't really listening, still processing her disappointment. This year, Eleanor continued, that recognition comes with something new. A full scholarship, tuition, housing, stipend, to the university of the recipient's choice, plus mentorship and internship opportunities with leading tech companies. The audience murmured. This was new. This was significant. This year's Hartwell Foundation scholar is Maya Washington. Maya froze, certain she'd misheard. But Eleanor was smiling, gesturing her to the stage. Maya walked up in a daze, her legs barely working. Eleanor hugged her tight. You earned this. Maya was crying, overwhelmed. I can't. You can. You will. Eleanor handed her the official certificate. The scholarship covers 4 years. MIT, Stanford, wherever you want to go. The audience gave a standing ovation. Maya scanned the crowd, wishing her mother was there. She's watching, Eleanor said softly. Check the screen. Maya looked up at the large monitor. There was a live video call. Denise at work, still in her custodial uniform, tears streaming down her face. Baby, I'm so proud of you. Mom? Mrs. Chun was there too, with Jamal, who was bouncing up and down. That's my sister. Maya was laughing and crying simultaneously. Somewhere in the chaos of that moment, Sophie approached and congratulated her. They talked about maybe being classmates at MIT someday. And Maya realized that this was just the beginning. But while Maya's life was opening up, Marcus's was still struggling to find solid ground. His first weeks with Lisa were hard. Her apartment was cramped, and Marcus slept on an air mattress in the living room. Lisa tried her best, but she was out of her depth. She burned dinner more often than not. She didn't know how to talk to a grieving 9-year-old. She worked long hours and came home exhausted. Marcus started at Cedar Ridge Elementary as the new kid, withdrawn and grieving. He sat alone at lunch. He didn't engage in class. One kid named Tyler tried to befriend him, but Marcus turned him down. He wasn't ready. The only bright spot was Maya. They texted daily and she became his constant, his anchor in the storm. School is hard, he texted. Everyone has friends already. Give it time. You're amazing. They'll see that. I miss my mom. I know. That doesn't go away. But it gets easier to carry. 2 weeks after Marcus arrived, Lisa got a call from the school. His teacher, Ms. Reynolds, was concerned. Marcus is struggling. He's not engaging, falling behind on work. I think he needs additional support. Lisa hung up feeling like a failure. That evening she tried to talk to Marcus. The school called. They're worried about you. I'm fine. You're not fine. And that's okay. None of this is okay. Marcus stayed silent. Lisa took a breath. I didn't know your mom well. We weren't close. And I regret that every day. But she loved you so much. She talked about you constantly. Marcus looked up. The last time we talked, Lisa continued, 2 weeks before she died, she asked me to take care of you. Not because she had to. Because she trusted me. Lisa was crying now. And I'm terrified I'm going to let her down. Let you down. You're not, Marcus whispered. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be a mom. Marcus considered this. You don't have to be my mom. Can you just be Lisa? It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. 3 weeks after the flight, everything changed. The woman from row 18C, the one who had recorded the confrontation on her phone, posted the video online. Her caption read, 13-year-old girl stands up to racist flight attendant harassing 9-year-old boy. The video went viral. Millions of views in 48 hours. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, it spread like wildfire. News outlets picked up the story. Local Atlanta news interviewed Denise. My daughter has always stood up for what's right. I taught her to use her voice. Seattle News found Lisa and Marcus. Maya's my friend, Marcus said. She helped me when I was scared. National coverage followed. CNN, MSNBC, every major network. Different outlets had different angles. Racism in the airline industry, youth activism, children traveling alone, but they all had the same footage. A 13-year-old girl standing in an airplane aisle, her voice shaking but clear, saying words that would be quoted in headlines around the world. He didn't take anything. I saw what happened. The airline released an official response. Sandra Pierce had been terminated. Diversity training would be implemented. Policies were being reviewed. Maya's scholarship was mentioned in articles, amplifying the story further. Eleanor Hartwell issued a statement praising Maya's courage. And suddenly Maya Washington, a 13-year-old girl from a small apartment in Atlanta, was famous. But fame wasn't what Maya had wanted. Fame was complicated. Fame was exhausting. Fame was strangers having opinions about you when they didn't know anything about you. She was recognized at the grocery store, at school, on the bus. Some people treated her like a hero. Others were resentful or dismissive. You think you're so special now? A classmate said. I didn't ask for any of this, Maya replied. Social media was mostly supportive but also cruel. Comments called her an attention seeker, accused her of using Marcus for clout, claimed she'd made the whole thing up. Maya read them all, letting them hurt her even when she knew she shouldn't. Denise found her crying in her bedroom one night. Baby, what's wrong? I just wanted to help Marcus. Now everyone has an opinion about me. People are saying terrible things. You did the right thing. That's all that matters. But what if I made things worse? What if Marcus's life is harder now because of me? Denise paused. Did you ask him? Maya realized she hadn't talked to Marcus since the video went viral. She'd been scared of what he might say, scared that he blamed her. That night Marcus video called. Maya almost didn't answer. Why haven't you called me back? He asked. I thought maybe you were mad. About the video. About everything. Marcus looked confused. Mad? Maya, you're the best thing that happened to me. While Maya and Marcus were navigating sudden fame, Sandra Pierce was watching her life fall apart. She'd been terminated from the airline after 22 years. Social media had identified her, and her address had been leaked online. Protesters gathered outside her house. Her husband stood by her initially, but the tension was growing. Their adult daughter, Beth, publicly denounced her, posting on social media, I'm ashamed. This isn't who I thought my mother was. Sandra gave an interview to a local news station, trying to tell her side of the story. I was doing my job. This has been blown out of proportion. But former passengers came forward with similar stories. A pattern of behavior emerged. James, the flight attendant who tried to help Marcus, gave an interview of his own. I reported her behavior multiple times. Nothing was ever done until this went public. Sandra became a symbol of something larger than herself. Casual racism. Bias that hid behind authority. The way black children were treated as threats instead of children. She lost her job, her reputation, her friends. Her husband's patience was wearing thin. You need to accept responsibility, he said. I didn't do anything wrong, she insisted. That's the problem. You still don't see it. Eleanor Hartwell saw the news coverage and recognized an opportunity. She contacted Denise directly. I'd like to do something more. For both Maya and Marcus. Like what? I want to establish a scholarship program. For kids who show the kind of courage Maya did. Kids who stand up for others. She wanted to name it, the Maya Washington Courage Scholarship. Maya was embarrassed. I don't want my name on it. Your name means something now, Eleanor said. Use that power. The program would fund 10 students annually. Full college scholarships for students who demonstrated advocacy, leadership, and service. Eleanor asked Maya to help select recipients. Me? I'm just a kid. You're exactly who should be making these decisions. A press conference was held to announce the scholarship. Maya, Eleanor, Denise, and Marcus all attended. Marcus was named the first honorary recipient. When he came of age, he would receive the same scholarship Maya had won. Marcus hugged Maya on stage. "Thank you. Thank you for being worth standing up for." The scholarship announcement was a turning point for Lisa and Marcus too. Lisa watched the press conference online and saw Marcus smile. Really smile, for the first time since he'd moved in. She realized she needed to do more. She researched grief counseling for children and found a therapist named Dr. Morrison, a black woman in her 50s who specialized in childhood grief. Marcus was resistant at first. "I don't need therapy. I started going," Lisa said. "It's helping me. Maybe it could help you too." Marcus was surprised. "You're going to therapy? Your mom dying? It affected me too. I lost my sister. I'm allowed to grieve." Marcus softened. He agreed to try one session. Dr. Morrison's office was warm, filled with art supplies and books. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to," she said. "But this is your space. Your time." Marcus was silent for 20 minutes. Then, "I'm scared I'm going to forget her." "Tell me about her. What do you want to remember?" Marcus talked for an hour. About his mom's laugh. How she sang off-key while cooking. Her bedtime stories. Teaching him to ride a bike. Her strength during her illness, never complaining, always putting him first. He left the session exhausted but lighter. "How was it?" Lisa asked. "Can I go back next week?" At Marcus's school things were shifting too. Ms. Reynolds had seen the news coverage and finally understood what this little boy had been carrying. She brought it to the school counselor, Mr. Hayes. "I had no idea what that kid went through. We need to do better by him." They created a support plan. Tyler, the kid who tried to befriend Marcus on his first day, was officially partnered with him as a buddy. "Want to eat lunch together?" Tyler asked. "Okay. Small steps." Tyler introduced Marcus to his friend group. Slowly Marcus began to open up. He joined the after-school robotics club inspired by Maya. He made his first real friend, a girl named Zoe who also loved dinosaurs. "Rex is cool," Zoe said. "I have a triceratops named Spike. Want to trade for lunch sometimes?" "Deal." Progress wasn't linear. Marcus still had hard days, days he couldn't get out of bed, days he cried for his mom. But he also had good days. Days he laughed. Days he forgot to be sad. Lisa was learning too. She took cooking classes. She decorated the apartment to make Marcus's space feel permanent. She bought him an actual bed, a desk, shelves for his things. "You didn't have to do all this," Marcus said. "Yeah, I did. This is your home now." 6 months passed. Maya finished 8th grade and was accepted to a selective STEM high school. MIT invited her to their summer program. Google wanted her to compete in their science fair. Speaking invitations came from conferences across the country. She balanced fame with normal life, still taking care of Jamal, still helping her mom with bills. But she was also traveling, speaking, inspiring others. She gave a talk at a local middle school to a room full of black and brown kids. 6 months ago I was sitting where you are. Scared. Doubting myself. She showed them her robotics project. You don't need expensive equipment. You need curiosity. You need determination. A kid raised his hand. What if people don't believe in us? Then you believe in yourself. And you find your people. The ones who will stand with you. After the talk, one girl approached her. 11 years old, shy, eyes full of doubt. "I want to be an engineer. But my teacher said girls aren't good at math." Maya knelt down to meet her eyes. "Your teacher is wrong. And you're going to prove it." "How do you know?" "Because you're still here. You still want it. That's all you need." Maya and Marcus's families filed a civil rights lawsuit against the airline. Not for money but for accountability. Their lawyer, Janet Torres, took the case pro bono. This is about systemic change. Making sure what happened to you doesn't happen to others. The airline offered a settlement, $500,000 to each family, plus implementation of comprehensive anti-discrimination training. Maya didn't want the money. The scholarship secured my future. I want the policies changed. I want them to mean it. Marcus agreed. I want other kids to feel safe. The settlement was revised. The money was reduced but the policy commitments were strengthened. The airline would hire independent oversight for discrimination complaints. They would implement mandatory quarterly diversity training for all staff. They would establish a compensation fund for future discrimination victims. You're changing an entire industry, Torres told them. The money that remained was put in trust. Marcus's share would fund his education, therapy, and future. Maya donated her share to Eleanor's scholarship fund. Denise protested. Maya, that money is yours. And I want to use it for this. Help more kids. Sandra Pierce had been unemployed for 6 months, burning through her savings, watching her marriage strain under the weight of what she'd done. You need to accept responsibility, Mark said. I didn't do anything wrong. That's the problem. You still don't see it. Her daughter still wouldn't speak to her. Sandra found online communities that validated her sense of victimhood, echo chambers that told her she was the one being persecuted. But cracks were forming. As part of the lawsuit settlement, Sandra was required to attend therapy. Her court-mandated therapist asked uncomfortable questions. Why do you think you reacted the way you did to Marcus? He looked suspicious. A 9-year-old looked suspicious? The therapist gave her homework. Watch the video of the incident. Sandra didn't want to. She'd avoided it for months. But she forced herself. And she watched herself on screen. She saw her own face, her own anger. She heard the way she spoke to Marcus. She saw his tears. She saw Maya's courage. Sandra cried for the first time since this had started. Not tears of self-pity but something else. Something like recognition. At her next therapy session, something had shifted. I was horrible, she said. I was racist. It was the first time she'd said it out loud. What do you want to do about that? The therapist asked. I don't know if I can fix it. Not overnight. But you can start. Sandra began the real work. Reading, learning, confronting her biases. She attended a restorative justice circle, preparing to face what she'd done. Would you like to apologize to Marcus and Maya? The facilitator asked. Yes. But I don't know if they'll listen. That's not your decision to make. You can only control your actions. 1 year after the incident, Eleanor held a gala to celebrate the scholarship's first anniversary. The Courage Scholarship Gala would announce the first full cohort of recipients and raise money for the foundation's expansion. Eleanor asked Maya to speak. Marcus was invited as guest of honor. Lisa and Marcus flew to Atlanta for the event. It was Marcus's first flight since the incident. He was nervous. What if I see her? He asked Lisa. The flight attendant? She doesn't work there anymore. But even if you did, you're stronger now. I'm still scared sometimes. Being scared is okay. You don't have to be brave all the time. The flight was smooth. The crew was kind. Marcus was okay. The gala was held at a luxury hotel in Atlanta. Hundreds attended, donors, educators, students, press. Maya wore a dress Denise had saved for months to buy. You look beautiful, baby. I feel weird. This isn't me. This is you. You're allowed to be celebrated. Marcus arrived with Lisa, and he and Maya hugged like the siblings they'd become. I missed you, Marcus said. Missed you too, little brother. The event began. Eleanor gave opening remarks. We're here because a 13-year-old girl saw injustice and said no. A 9-year-old boy endured cruelty with dignity. Together they reminded us what courage looks like. The first scholarship cohort was introduced, 10 students from across the country. Each one had done something brave. One had started an anti-bullying program after being bullied himself. Another had organized a food drive for her homeless community. A third had created an app connecting tutors with low-income students. Then it was Maya's turn to speak. She walked to the podium, hands shaking, and started reading her prepared remarks. Then she stopped. Put the paper down. I wrote a speech, she said. It was good. Say. But that's not what this is about. She took a deep breath. A year ago I was on a plane. I saw a little kid being hurt. And I had a choice. Say something or stay quiet. The room went silent. I was terrified. My hands were shaking. My voice was shaking. But I thought about all the times I'd been quiet. When kids made fun of my clothes. When teachers had low expectations. When people assumed I didn't belong. She looked at Marcus in the audience. And I thought about that little boy, Marcus, who just lost his mom. Who was alone and scared. And I thought if I don't say something, who will? Her voice grew stronger. Courage isn't not being afraid. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. This scholarship isn't about me. It's about all of us. Every kid who's been told they're not enough. Who's been judged by how they look instead of who they are. She scanned the room. The girl who's told she's not good at math. The boy who's punished for existing while black. The kid who doesn't have anyone to stand up for them. We have to be those people for each other. We have to see injustice and refuse to be silent. She pointed to the scholarship recipients. These 10 people did that. They saw wrong and they acted. They're heroes. Just like Marcus is my hero. Marcus was crying now. Because it takes more courage to be kind in a cruel world than it does to be cruel. It takes more strength to forgive than to hate. It takes more bravery to keep trying when everything feels hopeless. Maya's voice cracked but held. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for standing with us. Together we can change everything. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. Marcus rushed to the stage and hugged Maya, and cameras flashed everywhere. During the reception there was a commotion at the entrance. Sandra Pierce was standing there, uncertain, clearly uninvited. Security approached her, but Eleanor intervened. Wait. The room went silent. Sandra saw Maya and Marcus and walked over slowly. I know I have no right to be here. Maya and Marcus froze. Sandra turned to Marcus, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What I did to you was cruel. It was wrong. It was racist. There's no excuse. Marcus didn't respond, still processing. Sandra turned to Maya. And you tried to protect him. You were braver than I've ever been. Why are you here? Maya asked. Because you both deserved an apology. A real one. Not a press statement. Not a legal requirement. A human apology. She pulled out an envelope. I sold my house. I'm downsizing, starting over. This is a donation. To the scholarship fund. It's not enough. Nothing will be enough. But I want to do something. She handed the envelope to Eleanor. Inside was a check for $100,000. Sandra turned back to Marcus. I can't take back what I did. I can't undo your pain. But I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to understand how I became that person. Marcus looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. His choice. Okay, Marcus said. Okay. I accept your apology. I don't forgive you yet. But maybe someday. Sandra was crying. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. She started to leave. Wait, Maya said. Sandra turned. Are you really changing? I'm trying. Every day. Maya nodded slowly. Then keep trying. And help other people change too. I will. I promise. Sandra left and the room let out a collective breath. Maya turned to Marcus. You okay? Yeah, I think I am. 2 years later, Maya was 15 years old and visiting MIT with her mother. The campus was everything she dreamed of. State-of-the-art robotics labs, brilliant minds everywhere, possibilities stretching out in every direction. After the tour, she met with an admissions officer. Your application will be very competitive. Your story, your achievements, your advocacy work. I don't want to be admitted because of what happened on that plane, Maya said. The officer smiled. You won't be. You'll be admitted because you're exceptional. What happened on the plane just showed the world what you already were. Walking across campus with Denise, Maya felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. It's beautiful here, Denise said. It's far from home. I'll be okay. Jamal will be okay. Will I be okay? Denise took her daughter's hand. Baby, you'll be better than okay. You'll be exactly where you're supposed to be. I'm scared, Mom. Good. That means it matters. Marcus, now 11, was thriving in Seattle. He was captain of the Cedar Ridge Elementary Robotics team, presenting at regional competitions. His project was an assistive device for kids with motor disabilities. I got the idea from my friend Maya, he told the judges. She taught me that engineering should help people. His team won second place. Lisa cheered louder than anyone. Afterward, they called Maya on video chat. I heard you won. Maya said. I'm so proud. We got second. Not first. Second place is amazing. How do you feel? Marcus smiled. A real smile, the kind he'd almost forgotten how to make. Happy. Really happy. He paused. I think my mom would be proud too. She definitely would be. Marcus talked about his mom more now. Therapy helped. Lisa helped. He still missed her, but the grief had become something he could carry instead of something that carried him. He volunteered at the elementary school library, reading to younger kids just like his mom used to do. He kept a photo of her on his nightstand and talked to her sometimes. Mom, I made a new friend today. Mom, I got an A on my science test. Lisa had never tried to replace Jennifer. But she was present, stable, loving. Their relationship had evolved into something neither of them had expected. Family. Eleanor, now 64, was still running the foundation, which had expanded to fund 25 students annually. 75 scholars in 3 years, each one changing the world in their own way. She reviewed applications in her office, reading essays from kids across the country. Kids who had started anti-bullying programs, organized food drives, created apps to help their communities. each one inspired by Maya and Marcus's story. "You've changed a lot of lives," her assistant said. "Maya changed mine. I'd built a foundation, donated money, but I'd lost touch with why." She reminded me. Eleanor was planning her retirement, grooming Maya to eventually take over the foundation. "I'm 15, Maya protested. "I can't run a foundation. Not now. But someday. When you're ready." What Maya didn't know was that Eleanor had recently been diagnosed with cancer. Stage 2 treatable, good prognosis. But it had given her a sense of urgency. "I need 2 more years," she told her doctors, "to make sure this is sustainable." 3 years after the incident, Maya was 16 and graduating as valedictorian of her high school. She'd been accepted to MIT early admission as well as Stanford, Caltech, and Carnegie Mellon. She chose MIT, her dream since she was 8 years old, and fixed that broken toaster. Graduation day arrived. Denise was in the audience, along with Jamal and Mrs. Chin. Eleanor had flown in from California. Marcus and Lisa had flown in from Seattle. Maya stood at the podium looking out at her classmates. 3 years ago I was on a plane. What happened there changed my life. But not how you think." She paused. "It didn't change me. I was always this person. It just gave me permission to be her out loud." She found Marcus in the audience. "Someone once told me that being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes you're both. And that's okay." She turned back to her classmates. "We're all scared. Of failing. Of not being enough. Of the future. But we're also capable of extraordinary things. You are capable of extraordinary things. Don't let anyone, not teachers, not society, not your own doubts, tell you otherwise." After the ceremony there were photos with family, hugs, tears, laughter. Marcus pulled Maya aside. "I'm going to miss you when you're in Boston. I'll visit. And you'll visit me. We're stuck together now. Promise?" "Promise." Eleanor approached and handed Maya a small box. Inside was a jade bracelet, similar to the one Mrs. Chen had given her years ago. "For courage," Eleanor said. "Even though you don't need it anymore. I still get scared." "Good. Stay scared. Stay hungry. Stay determined. Change the world." "I will." The years that followed would be documented in headlines and history books. Maya Washington graduated MIT with honors and founded a non-profit bringing clean water technology to underserved communities around the world. Her water filtration robots, the same design she'd built as a 13-year-old from recycled parts, were now deployed in disaster zones and developing nations, providing clean water to millions. Marcus Chin studied engineering, inspired by his friend Maya. He volunteered weekly, reading to elementary school children at libraries across Seattle, carrying forward his mother's legacy. He still carried Rex with him sometimes, a reminder of the woman who had loved him first. The Hartwell Foundation Courage Scholarship funded over 200 students, each one going on to change their communities and the world. Eleanor Hartwell remained cancer-free and continued her work until her 80s, watching the seeds she'd planted grow into forests. Lisa Chin officially adopted Marcus in 2027. They remained a family, an unexpected one, but real and loving and strong. Sandra Pierce worked full-time in restorative justice education, helping others confront their biases the way she'd been forced to confront hers. She never flew again, but she also never stopped trying to be better. Denise Washington retired in 2035. She lived 3 blocks from Maya and saw her grandchildren daily. She never stopped telling people about the day her daughter stood up on that airplane, how Maya's voice shook but didn't break, how courage isn't about not being afraid. The airline industry implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination training across all major carriers, citing Maya and Marcus's case as the catalyst for change. In the final scene, imagine this. Maya and Marcus on a video call, now adults but still as close as they were that day on the plane. "Remember when we met?" Maya asks. Marcus laughs. "On the worst flight ever? Best flight ever. Because I met you." Pause. "Maya?" "Yeah. Thank you for standing up for me. Thank you for being worth standing up for." They smile and the screen fades. "If you're still here, thank you." This story was about a 13-year-old girl who saw wrong and said something. It was about a 9-year-old boy who lost everything but found family in unexpected places. It was about the people who witnessed injustice and chose to act, and the people who committed injustice and chose to change. But really it's about all of us. Every day we have choices. Stay quiet or speak up. Look away or pay attention. Protect ourselves or protect each other. Most of us will never face a moment as dramatic as what happened on that airplane. But all of us face smaller moments, smaller choices, smaller opportunities to be brave. Maya Washington wasn't special because she was fearless. She was special because she was afraid and did it anyway. Because she saw a child being hurt and decided that silence was not an option. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. Being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes you're both. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you of the courage you're capable of, then share it. Subscribe. And most importantly, the next time you see something wrong, say something. The world is changed by people who refuse to be silent. Be one of them. For Black Lens. Revealing truth, grace, and quiet power within the Black experience.